really happy when people told me, "Oh, thank you for your recommendation. I started biomedical engineering," and that's, I think, the most gift that I have been
Well,
receiving.
welcome to today's episode. And in today's episode, I have someone new, someone who has been creating content for quite some time, and I really love their content. And but they also have a similar background to me. So today I have Natalia Cantavella, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct, Natalia. But you work as a neuroimaging engineer, which is basically a speciality of biomedical engineering. And from the research I did before this, I know you spent 5 years in university. First, you started biomedical engineering, and then you specialized in neuroimaging, I think. And this
Yeah.
was in Spain. But then you left Spain and you moved to Italy for better job opportunities, or just for the better food in Italy?
Yeah, more or less, yeah, these are really sum up. Yeah, well, I start in Spain. Biomedical engineering is a really new degree. When I started, it was in 2015. And well, I did exactly health engineering, specialty in biomedical engineering in Malaga. uh, that in that university, it is really focused from the informatic point of view. I did many programming languages, and then I did an exchange program called Erasmus, and I went to Prague 1 year. And the last year, because in Spain the bachelor is 4 years compared to another countries, for example, in Holland is 3 years, and also in Italy, but in Spain it's 4 years. The last year I did another exchange program to another city in Spain, Valencia, and there I finished my degree, and I started to become specialized in neuro, because I did a thesis of artificial intelligence and hypoischemic lesions in the white matter in Alzheimer's disease patients with MRI. And after that, I didn't mention, but during the exchange program in Prague, I attend many conferences in Europe, in Austria, Berlin, also Holland, because I wanted to get more focus deeply in neuro, because neuroscience, I didn't study anything during the bachelor, so I had to study by myself. And when I finished the bachelor, I did the master of neuroscience in Barcelona. That I was the only one medical biomedical engineer that did it. It was the first one engineer, so it was a little bit hard for the teachers to understand my role in the research part. Then it was a pandemic, so I started looking for PhD and jobs, but it was harder to find anything that was interesting me, because sometimes people, when they finish the degree, they don't know which path they should take. But it wasn't my case. I knew I wanted to do neuro and artificial intelligence, so I did an internship with Amsterdam University, UMC, the hospital, and I did it online because of the COVID. And then it appears the opportunity of Italy, and I'm here more than 2 years being like a software developer in artificial intelligence and neuroimaging. This is a little bit brief sum up.
Nice. And that's really exciting, because I know you mentioned a lot of things there, but one of the things you mentioned was when you started your degree, it was still a new degree. And it's something that I also experienced. So when I chose to study biomedical engineering, most people didn't even know what biomedical engineering was. And then I decided to actually come. Also left my home country, went to university in the UK, where I was quite fortunate to get some internships in R&D that sort of like kickstarted my career. But you know, because you said a lot of things there, Natalia, I'm gonna break it down a little bit.
Okay.
So right now you're working in uh, basically AI development for neuroimaging, right? And so in this job you're doing right now, do you program a lot, or what do you do on
Yeah,
a day-to-day
I'm
basis?
all day programming. People ask me what I'm doing. Basically, I'm programming. I'm doing softwares with Python, what I learned by myself during the thesis in the bachelor, because during my bachelor it wasn't any course about Python, so I learned by myself. And sometimes, obviously, I see images, MRI images. For example, if you know a little bit of MRI, T1, T2, and FLAIR, they are the main MRI images that I'm looking for in different diseases. So after doing my software, I have to look and understand, analyze if the purpose of the software has been reached, looking for the images. Sometimes what happens in my case is that I'm really focused to the primary stuff, that sometimes I lose the focus also in the images, but it's the purpose. Yeah, I'm like a programmer. My brain is always thinking in programming, but I'm also neuroscientist. But that part, sometimes I forgot. So I have to remember. Okay, Natalia, you did it. Okay, the code is alright, is correct, but does the code make sense for your purpose? So we have to look the images. So being in this world, that being able to understand both sides, sometimes it's harder, but I really like it. But yeah, but most of the
Makes
time
sense.
I'm programming.
Nice, makes sense, and definitely because I worked as a programmer for a medical device building the operating system as well. And one thing that's worth mentioning for the audience is that as a biomedical engineer, you are expected to learn a lot of things. So you should know biology, you're
Yeah,
expected to know programming, chemistry, physics. So it's like you have to be an all-rounder in quite a lot of science domains for you to do a
yeah.
good job here. But just for people who don't know what neuroimaging is, like how would you describe neuroimaging in the most basic way?
Well, the most basic way it could be that there are brain images. For example, when
Yes.
you have a headache and you go to the doctor and they recommend you, maybe, or not, sometimes depending of the doctor, doing an MRI, also doing another kind of images, such as PET images. For example, people understand it better with another kind of images. For example, X-ray, that you have your leg, you broke your leg or whatever. They are more or less similar, but in the brain, and because they are non-invasive images, which means the MRI, that it does not provoke any injury in your head. That is really important because it's a really delicate organ. We can do as many MRI images as we can, and it lets us to understand if the patient has any, for example, problem. For example, a structural problem should be having a tumor. Is it structural, that you can see in MRI? For example, having
Nice.
some lesions. So I'm working with that. Nowadays, if you go to a hospital, we the person who sees those images are the neuroradiology, with the neurology together.
Nice, nice, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even to also say this to add on to what you're saying, because the only neuro imaging I know is basically been the what I've studied at university and what I've come across. Because as part of the imaging, we have to learn other technologies we that exist out there. So essentially when you have like a brain, or when you have an organ like a brain which is enclosed in your skull, it's really
Yeah,
hard to see because you can't just look at it, and because there's a skull protecting it. So to
yeah,
see the brain you need to do all these scans, right?
yeah,
But the most exciting thing is all that has been happening with the latest developments outside of MRI, is the artificial intelligence aspect of
Yeah.
it, and and what artificial intelligence basically is helping people to do is to help people see the images better. So there's sort of like smart algorithms which you're working on, help to sort of like look if there's a maybe a cluster or a certain grouping of too many cells which might not be so visible to the human eye, and the machine can look at this, looking at the pixels of that, and then say, you know what, I think maybe this is a tumor, and this, and then that helps the
Yeah.
neuroradiologist
Yeah.
to see the information, right?
Yeah.
But you know, but the exciting thing though is like how fast the AI is going. I mean, like you working in sort of in the AI space for medical technology. Like, do you think there's been a lot of progress that has happened in recent
Yeah. Of
years over the
course.
time you've
Yeah.
been working there?
Yeah, since I started I think 2019 with my thesis.
Nice.
In that time, I was doing the ischemic lesions that are sometimes they are visible, sometimes they are harder to see by the neuroradiologist, or they spend like, for example, 1.5 hour to segment all those lesions. Nowadays, there are some tools that can do that detection of the lesions at 70% that for people could think there's a low precision. No, it's higher to the lesions structure is higher compared to another structures. For example, the
Well,
hippocampus, the accuracy it could be the 92%, I think so. But the lesions they have been improving over the years. I think that several years ago it was 40 or 50% of accuracy precision. Now it's
well,
20% over. So it is easier for the medical doctors to detect those lesions, and also to know the volume of those lesions that you cannot see only looking at the images. You have to analyze in a precise way to understand if the lesion has been progressed, has been reducing according to the treatment, or according to the pass of over the years of the disease of the
well.
patient.
Well,
We
and
had to-
like I know you used a lot. I know you used a lot of big words, which I understand. But just to basically simplify for people who are listening, what you're saying is basically in the brain, when you got a tumor or a grow or like a growing of cells, the new technology you guys have right now basically helps the doctor see if it's
yeah,
been getting smaller through treatment, or and
yeah,
that's getting better essentially because you want the cancer cells to go, so you want them to shrink, or
yeah,
if it's been getting bigger. So I guess this algorithm compares. So from the same patient, you can take these scans and then you can keep them in
yeah.
a sort of like storage, and then it compares over months to see
Yeah,
if there's
and
progress or not.
months over the years. There's well in MRI we say that we work with time points, 1 year, another year for the same patient. I'm gonna put an example of multiple sclerosis that have those lesions. If I'm gonna sum up a little bit of this disease, multiple sclerosis affects mainly the myelin of the white matter substance.
Yes.
So people that suffer it, they have those hypoxemulations that are microinfarcts in the white matter. So what happens is with the loss of the myelin, the neurons cannot communicate in a faster way because the myelin makes you
True.
communicate between all the neurons from all the lobes of the brain in a really fast way. If we don't have it, our activities to go lower. We cannot speak as fast as we did, and many things. So this is an important fact that nowadays is really investigated. These lesions, and what it happens with multiple sclerosis that they have many treatments nowadays. They have plenty. Depending if you are pregnant or not pregnant, depending on the age of the sex, you have plenty of options. So to the doctor, see if they have the good treatment for you. They try the basic one at the beginning. they look over, for example, 1 year, if the lesion has been progressed or have been disappeared. Because the good part of multiple sclerosis is that some lesions are gonna be reduced because the myelin
Makes sense.
regenerates itself. Well, also with the help of the treatment. So those machine learning techniques of the learning techniques allows the medical doctor to see in a really precise way. For example, if the lesion has been reduced, I don't know, for example, 2 millimeters that at simple eye you cannot see, a simple view.
Well,
So
makes sense.
yeah, of the progression of those lesions, they are gonna put you on treatment or another, and this is really important because it makes your lives better. You have more quality of life, and you are not like you are not a trial. You the
Makes sense.
medical doctor knows which makes or not knows if you have been worse or better. So it is
Or
really good.
better.
Yeah, and it also helps to do faster the diagnose. And yeah, because in
Nice.
Spain, I don't know if in other countries, the health insurance has been saturated. People, when they go to set up an appointment for example, neurology, they told you in the public health 1.5 years to wait until you have an MRI. So if we use these artificial intelligence tools, they will help the doctors, not substitute help. That's
Yes.
people sometimes confuse that, to do this diagnosis in a
Yes.
precise way and also in a faster way, so people could be treated and diagnosed easily. That's nowadays is not as
Makes
faster as
sense.
can.
Of course, definitely. I mean, just to add on to your point there, because I mean, when you got an illness such as cancer, for instance, every day counts. And I think that's why during the pandemic, people were complaining about delayed cancer diagnosis, because if someone was delayed by 3 months, it can make the difference between being alive or not.
Yeah,
So in this case where you got a disease that needs to be, diagnosed faster, that needs to be, be treated a lot more accurately. And
yeah,
I like what you say, that when people are going in these trials, they're no longer just like, as I like to say, a lab rat, where everything is
yeah,
tried on. You're actually being treated with information and medication that's directly helping the tumor you have. Because to add to the complexity of tumors is that sometimes two people can have two different kind of tumors, even though it's probably the same type of cancer. So each each treatment has to be personalized, and that's what your algorithms are helping to do.
yeah.
So that's really motivating. So right now, would you see yourself as a researcher or more of a developer? How do you see yourself right now?
I think I'm researcher, because well, my company, well, in my company I'm a software developer, but I mostly do research. Um, for those who don't understand, which means doing research in a private company, because sometimes well, when I was at university, I thought research is only during university in the labs. No, research you can do in a private company. That means doing some projects to, for example, to publish a paper that makes you grow up and your curriculum higher also. And also in being researcher in a company means that sometimes your projects they are going to be used with financial purpose to pharmaceutical companies, so the company can earn a lot of money with your project. But I'm researcher because I'm always desperate to find a solution for any problem. So I'm always doing like a circle. I was talking yesterday with my header, and that I do like a circle. When I think I finish one project, then I realize that there was any mistake that I have to solve again, and this you have to be plenty of patient, because I'm not patient. So yeah, I'm researcher. I'm always trying to solve problems, and when I solve a problem, there are gonna be another projects that mm, sometimes it could be easier the first time they told you, but then you realize that's no, the most easiest ones are the most complicated, because you think that you have control, you're really confident, and sometimes you realize that okay, the code is really simple, the images are not great as you imagine. So yeah, I'm researcher because I think that being a developer could be being more a person that just does a project each day or in 2 weeks and then send it. And my projects normally take some several months.
Master in Biomechanics to study in Europe. Master. Here are some master example of artificial intelligence to study in Europe.
So yeah, so we're back sort of like for the second half of this episode with Natalia. Natalia is a biomedical engineer, but who's focused on neuroimaging. So in theory, she's a neuroimaging engineer working on some really cool algorithms for AI, helping doctors be able to diagnose or monitor cancer cells in the brain much better. But there's another, side to Natalia that's also quite interesting. And before we get into her content, which she creates, which I find really informative, and I'll be adding the link to her page down below in this episode so you guys can follow her because she creates some really good content. There's also another question that I wanted to ask you, Natalia. Because you've been moving around quite a lot, I think you talked when we spoke the other time, you said you spoke like 5 languages. Like, how did you get to learn all those languages you speak?
Well, in Spain, I'm from Valencia, and I speak Valencian. Is a language similar to Catalan. Also, I speak well Spanish, English, Italian, because I'm here in Italy. So I learned by myself. Like in my daily day, I have all my meetings in Italian at uh, at my company. So well, in theory, in several months, I think I can't do the exam because I want to focus and all my knowledge in Italian. And also, I'm learning since 2 years ago, but I know a little bit of German. And also, I studied during 4 years French, but I don't remember anything about French. French is like I forget everything. But I want after learning German starting learning French because I think it is really useful to learn languages because you become more into the society if you live in that country. Uh, First, when I came here, I didn't understand Italian. Well, it's similar to Spain, but I didn't really understand it, and I was really shy. People didn't speak English, so when I started learning Italian by listening each other, I start being more involved into the groups. So I think it's the most it's the motivation to learn languages, be involved in several groups and understand the culture of the different countries.
Well, that's amazing, and I think it's quite good, right? Especially um, for people listening out there. in their different countries, because now on this podcast we got listeners from about 44 countries now. So it's grown quite a bit since the last time we spoke. And it's just also good words of encouragement to know that if you want to, seek other opportunities outside of your country, outside of your language zone, in terms of comfort zone, you can do that. And Natalia is a perfect example that you're just ready to move wherever you get good opportunities and start from scratch. But I mean, going to your content now, which is quite informative and stuff, like what made you start your Instagram page, and when did you start it?
Before this Instagram, I had another one, but it was more or less the same focus. It was really informative, biomedical engineering, like general information. Because when I was doing the bachelor, I always needed someone to ask several doubts that my colleagues didn't understand, didn't know, because they have the same experience as me. Like, for example, when I was into the second year of the bachelor, we didn't know what was biomedical engineering. Even after biomedical engineering degree, I didn't know anything about it. But I was like, oh my God, I want to ask someone if have done an exchange program or what are the specialties of biomedical engineering, because during my bachelor, I have all specialties, and I think that there are only these four specialties, and now there are plenty. So, how I can't get any internship in any company, how I can search for a research group to do my thesis, and those questions I learned by myself. And I knew that, and I thought that maybe my knowledge could help others to solve problems, because during my bachelorette everyone was asking me, how do you did that, Natalia, because I'm really proactive and I want to learn everything. And I was thinking, if people ask me nowadays, how can maybe I can help other people. So I started like doing general information by mega engineering. For example, as I told you, the different specialties that, for example, there are 20 or more. I and people
Yes.
told me, I thought that there were only three, only four: biomechanics, tissue engineering, medical imaging, and robotics. That's another discussion. The robotics mentality that people think that biomedical engineering does, that it is not the reality. But yeah, and then when I was like explaining biomedical engineering, the master, different specialties, because people sometimes think that doing biomedical engineering bachelor you have to do the master in biomedical engineering, but you can do another kind of master. uh, you can do the master that you want. So solving those problems, then I wanted to do more in personalized content, and I introduced several times the neuroimaging content. That is what I enjoy the most, doing that kind of content, that my life was about it. And sometimes people are really gossip, and they ask me about my life, so I say a little bit small things, not so massively, because people are really gossip. I understand, I'm really gossip.
Yeah.
I tell people what I'm doing, my life. I tell people I'm working in Italy, that I'm going soon a conference, that I'm gonna share all the content. So it's like kind of stuff of my purpose is like focus on biomedical engineering that can solve you
Yes.
problems or doubts. Sometimes I don't know the answer. That I simply say I don't know it. I'm not a god. As another person, I recommend you another person. But
Makes
yeah,
sense. And
yeah, people to have me. I think that they can ask whatever they want, and if I can help them, I'm really grateful. I'm really happy when people told me, "Oh, thank you for your recommendation. I started biomedical engineering," and that's, I think, the most gift that I
so,
have been receiving.
well, that's really motivating, and it's true what you say that when I also went to university and I was studying biomedical engineering, there was not much content out there, whether it's YouTube or just Instagram. So it's a new sector essentially, and there's quite a lot of things that are still to be done. So that was also one of the motivating factors why I also started this podcast, to try to just, get people here so that they understand some of the medical devices we have and everything. And it's quite nice that you say that, you feel good when people come back to you and they say, they learned a lot, that you have helped them a lot, because on your content page, like I follow your page, and I think it's really good. It's really informative. Like, you even share some links to which universities people should study, scholarships, ideas, and basically basic, you know, explanations of what each things are, because sometimes the big words can be quite
Yeah.
confusing, for other people. But there's one thing you mentioned right now, as part of creating content, do you also feel like you owe your audience content? You feel like you owe them content after some time, when you go on holiday and people message you, they say, Natalia, where are you? You haven't posted in a while. Do you feel like you owe your audience content? Because right now your page has got nearly like 4,000 followers, which is a lot more than when we spoke a couple of months ago. So how do
Yeah.
you feel?
But I with the other page that I reached 8,000 followers, I had more pressure because I pressure myself.
Well,
This new page, I focus in another way. Those these holidays, I needed to break my head from all the social media. I need it because I work, usually 12 hours per day, even on no of the at the weekends. So I wanted to have life. So I didn't pressure myself. I sometimes people as you write me, I say sorry. I was on holidays, and people I think that they understand. But it's more my pressure, my brain. I tried to not overthink that I didn't post this week. I'm really feel awful that sometimes it happens to me, or people ask me, I cannot answer it. I saw 3 weeks ago. Oh my god! Because the most recently chats came and appeared the first ones, and I cannot see the last ones, and I feel awful. But it's the people I think that they understand is my brain that sometimes I feel not I feel awful that not answering as fast as I wanted to do. But if I'm all day with the mobile, I'm not happy. So I'm trying to reach the equilibrium between having the social media and having life. That is harder nowadays.
true. And one of the things that I also realized about you is you like to also keep your weekends free, and you try so hard to keep them free. So do you think about your content on the weekend, or do you also switch off on a Friday and then you start thinking about it on a Monday morning? How do you handle
Well,
that?
yeah, last year I travel a lot, and I used to when I was traveling doing some content during the weekends. Each day I did. If one day I didn't post any story, I felt awful. Now, for that reason, I wasn't happy in that time, so I changed it. Okay, the weekends I'm gonna try not doing contests. Maybe on Sundays, I don't know, Sunday in the afternoon I can do any story. But I think that my content now has more quality. When I do that is because I'm sure I wanted to share that. I'm not like sharing for sharing. And I think that in social media it happens a lot. Or sharing like empty content, like for people. Would you like biomedical engineers nowadays are tired. They are tired. That content are not specific of biomedical engineering. That content is for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't like that kind of content. One, you can post one post about it. My content, I want to really help other people, and for that reason when I post something or when I share any story, I try to have any important information, and if they can help others. It's not like I think that it's easier to do a Instagram account without any relevant content, like doing a photo, doing a superficial post that has you do you have more likes, more interactive content, but I don't like that content to in the scientific part. I think maybe in another's in the
Makes sense.
mode, yeah, but in the fashion way, yeah. But in biomedical engineering, if I don't do content, doesn't make sense my page.
Makes sense. And that's one thing I like as well, because it's not like you just posting every single day to get the algorithm going. And I think maybe that's also the audience you want, because and that's also something to try to do for on the page for this podcast. I try to go and look at the things that people mention in the conversations I have, with different people on this podcast, and I try to extract maybe some of the most interesting points, or in just in a short way, and I post it. So because of that, I'm not posting every day. I only post when there's something worth posting. But if I really wanted to grow it as much, I'll be posting every day, even if it's something that's really irrelevant to what the podcast is about. And I like what you're doing, because you staying true to yourself, and I'm sure the followers you have are the right type of followers you want as well, by having
Yeah,
that balance, because they can wait for the content. They know it's going to be good when it gets posted, not just being bombarded every single day with it. And one
yeah.
thing I wanted to ask you, though, with the future of your page, the way it's growing, because I realized a couple of days ago that you also now have a subscription option for your page, where people
I don't
can. I don't know if you
think
have
I
that.
don't know.
You don't. So there's a new feature right now where people can also subscribe to pages. So maybe it's one of the pages that I saw, and I'm mistaking it with yours, but where people can subscribe to your content and pay like
Yeah,
maybe €5 per month. So it's like a Netflix, which is a monetized way that Instagram has introduced. It made me think that, with all this information you give people and stuff like that, do you charge people, or you've been doing it for free to this moment?
uh, like mostly most of my posts are free. Well, I no one pay me nowadays. Like doing posts in the other Instagram, they monetize it. But what's only I monetize one thing that I told several times. Well, I did by myself a course of neuroimaging in Spanish. So I shared that course, but I don't put ad because it's my course. It's like doesn't make sense putting ad with I did the course and I did the course and people saw my face during the course. It's like obviously it's mine. But yeah, I told several times I'm affiliated to Coursera, to EDX, so there are courses that I recommend. But I'd recommend that because during my bachelor, I did many courses of Coursera, of EDX. So I was always recommending like free, and I thought that if I recommend for free and I can't obtain like €2, I don't know, like it's really
Well,
low. If one person with
of
EDX,
course.
I think they were like 15 people that reached any course, and I obtained €15 for 15
Well,
people. Imagine, like
well,
I'm not criticizing my content, but it's not my purpose. Yeah, in the future maybe, but as I told you, it is easier to grow up. I know to grow up easily in biomedical engineering. My Instagram, for example, in on December, I wanted to grow up, and I reached it. 500 followers in 1 month. It's easy. I know how to move, but
well,
it's not my purpose.
well.
It's like because
Of course, makes sense.
and it is easier because you collab with another biomedical engineering tools, and you talk to them, and they
Yeah,
share your content, you share their content, so people look your Instagram, and
nice,
if they like, they follow you. It's easier to grow up. But I'm not focused on that because my audience is they are really good audience. It's not like having 10,000 followers and then having 10 likes. That I saw many in many accounts, Mattel accounts. And so I'm focused on doing in my free time, and I'm really more happy. And in the future, if I grow up, okay, that's good. But I don't want to have anxiety of growing up that I used to have,
Hmm.
because I
Makes sense.
learned that that
Well,
make me happy. I changed it. I because yeah, in the other accounts I post a five 4 reels per week. 4 reels per week.
well,
Imagine the
that's quite a
content.
lot of
I
work.
wake up at 11:30 during the morning on Saturday to do content because I think yeah, during February there is no sun, so only during the morning at the beginning of the morning. So I used to wake up, do makeup to have a good reel. That then people put me a like because of the dancing, not because of the content. So I get bored. I was like, you cannot see that like the content is really useful. You see only the yeah what you see in the superficial way. So I changed the mentality for this new account, and I think
Nice.
it's more me. I like it. Sometimes I share
Well,
a photo me programming, but most of the content is like could be annoying for most of people, but for me, I think it's really good, and I hope that people enjoy it
well.
and it's useful to people.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll say it again, I'll definitely be putting your link below, like your LinkedIn post or your LinkedIn page below, for people to see because it's some really informative information, particularly if you're interested in biomedical engineering and want to know some basics of things, if you're considering studying it at university. And I think, especially if you're a student currently studying biomedical engineering, it's very useful because it also opens your eyes to what's out there, and you get to see the different options you have. But I really admire your take on it, right? Because you in life sometimes you have to make a decision. You either lose yourself
Yeah.
for the people or you gain yourself for the people. But gaining yourself for the people sometimes can be slower. You say it like, it's when you want to create something that's meaningful in this world we live in where everything is fighting for your attention. That, attention is the new currency now on the internet. You
Yeah.
choosing this way of creating meaningful things which you post rarely, it's really good. It makes the content really good, and that's why I wanted to get you on this podcast. Just to also like for people to see like who Natalia is and like what motivates you and stuff. But because we're sort of like getting towards the end of it, I'm just curious about like what do you find motivating in the industry? Like what motivates you every single day to go to work besides the fact that you're programming, which I think you enjoy, but what else is motivating you?
Well, I didn't mention before, but I wanted to be in the neuroscience research world because my grandmother suffered Alzheimer's disease. So I saw the disease 10 years. I saw uh, all the steps, all the yeah the phases, the 4 phases that are most common. So since I was 12 years, I knew that I wanted to research in Alzheimer's disease. So every time I had a difficult day. For example, I during my bachelor, it was really difficult for me. It wasn't a really easy bachelor for people could be. Oh, it is really easy for me. No, I study a lot, and I always thought, okay, I'm doing this because I want to do something for people that suffer Alzheimer's disease, and I also did volunteering in Alzheimer's disease to remember myself, okay, I'm behind a computer, but this is gonna have a focus indirectly way to those people that needs me and another researcher. That sometimes neuroscience is forgotten until you are old and you have atrophy in your brain. People don't want to talk about neurological diseases For example, during nowadays people talk about cancer in mama cancer, breast cancer. Well, yeah, breast cancer. Yeah,
Yes.
many kind of cancers, child's cancer. People don't talk about neuro. Why? So that because everyone is gonna suffer any mental disease in a way of, yeah, atrophy because you became old. For those who doesn't know, who don't know which means atrophy, is that the volume of your brain is going to be reduced. For that reason, your grandmother, your grandfather, they sometimes forget memories, or they are lower to react to several actions. So I wanted to make those lives better in general for people, but
Well,
mostly for Alzheimer's disease. And that's my focus. That is my motivational point. And when I'm down, when I'm not feel productive or useful, I remember that even if I do small thing, I am contributing, and that
yes.
could be a huge thing for those people. For me, maybe it could not be
Well,
really relevant, but for those people, yes. So I think that we are really fortunate people, and the people that need us. So I think it's my main motivation.
that's deep. It kind of touched me a little bit there because you're right. People sometimes don't want to talk about these harsh illnesses because they just said. And for instance, things like cancer or things like brain atrophy, as you mentioned, then you already explained what atrophy is. Something basically getting smaller. It's because it's a very slow and painful way of, like, losing memories, and people witness this every single on a day-to-day basis, and that's quite sad. But that's the nice thing about being a biomedical engineer, also from what I've experienced, is that we're not necessarily the doctors at the forefront, but we make the tools that help the doctors. In fact, I
Yeah,
think that as a biomedical engineer, we have the chance to even have a bigger impact because you can make one device that will be used by millions of people,
yeah.
whereas a doctor most of the time can only work on one patient at a time. So that's, but we're not on the forefront. We're sort of like, just a little bit, behind the forefront of patients, because sometimes in R&D, like, or research and development, we are just stuck in a little lab or in a little office space working there. So, but just out of curiosity, and this will be the last question, is, like, from what you've seen in the industry or from the AI algorithms you guys are doing, like, what do you think the future holds? Like, should we be excited about the future? Should we be scared about the future because of AI? What does AI mean for, like, neuroimaging for you? Like, what can we expect? What's the most exciting thing that you've seen? Like, around that point, I'm just curious since you're working on this modern sort of like new technology, essentially.
I think that artificial intelligence nowadays is like the phone several years ago, that people were scared that you can telephone another from another part, and it was scary. There is no cable. You can go outside. You can just house, and it's like the same. We didn't understand the telephone. We didn't understand the television, that you can see people in maybe in the houses, and you can watch other people in another place. Uh, so artificial intelligence is the same. If you don't understand artificial intelligence, it could be you can be subject, you can be afraid. You cannot trust it. But I can talk only in euro because artificial intelligence has many implementation. I tell people like artificial intelligence is like knowing English, knowing another language, that you can speak English, but you can know animals in English. You cannot know in English stuff, for example, at the school. It's like the same. I know artificial intelligence
Ex-
in euro. In another part, I don't know. Well, in euro, it's really exciting because I see many advancement. I look at the future, knowing that we are gonna be more accurate diagnosed, that the tools are going to be implemented at the hospitals, and people are going to be better treated, and they're going to be attended in a faster way, as I told you before. So I think that there are good news, because we will know more diseases because of this advance. In neurological disease, there are
Well,
plenty. There are some similar of multiple sclerosis that affects the myelin, and we can distinguish those diseases with an artificial intelligence algorithm. So distinguishing those diseases, we can have better treatment, and I think it's really exciting. And people will have a higher quality of life. That is the main purpose. They are gonna be treated better. So it is only good things, and it gonna generate many job offers in those fields. Yeah, people sometimes say artificial intelligence, they are gonna delete many job offers. No, they are gonna delete ones, the old ones. They are gonna create another job offers. But because
yes.
the world improves, progress, but it's not the artificial intelligence the problem. The telephone was the same, because having a telephone, you didn't use a letter. It's the same. You improve, you generate another job offer. So in neuro, I think only good things could happen. In another field, I don't know. But I think that artificial intelligence are going to make our lives better. Or I hope so.
Well, that makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you very much. And that was a good answer. Just to think that we're going to be able to see new illnesses. There'll be more job opportunities. It's a fast growing sector. And I did an episode a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago now on what AI means for MedTech. And it's one of the things I spoke about how we can progress and have tools that will be better for doctors. Obviously, there's still other things that need to be ironed out, but it looks really promising from what you said. Like you can only speak for what you see in neuro imaging, but yeah, but I really appreciate the time you've given me, Natalia, coming onto this podcast, and I really enjoyed this episode. It's something new, which I'm trying out on this podcast, and it was really great. And I again, as I said, I'll put your links below, and I'll share this podcast with all my friends, and I recommend them to like look at your page just for curiosity to see what you have, and if they have any questions, they can always ask you since you got
Yeah.
your page, and it's biomedical engineering full stop
Dot.
es. So yeah, that's Natalie. Yeah. We'll
Thank you.
always call it full stop.
Thank you for your invitation. It was a pleasure. I knew a little bit your background, and it was really interesting talking to you, talking to another person in another country that has different perspectives, different experience, and always we can learn from each other. So thank you for letting me share my experience and my life and what I'm doing right now.